In this video, we will explore using Ascent Physician Review to review and interpret test results in Ascent version 2.3 and higher. The Ascent software may be installed locally on your computer, or it may be set up with remote access, such as Citrix. Log into your computer or your remote access software, then double-click on the Ascent software icon. When Ascent opens, it will ask for your individual username and password. This should be set up by the Ascent software administrator. Once you log in, the Ascent home screen will be displayed. The first time logging into Ascent will display a list of patients that are not necessarily the list you desire. To change the patient list, the Ascent software has filters that you can change. Please note, once you change these filters, they will persist the next time you log into Ascent. To change the filter settings, click on the pencil icon at the top of the screen. Here you will be given options for which patients you wish to review. By clicking on the drop-down arrows for each entry, the options for that entry will be displayed. Visit status allows you to display patients based on their testing status. Scheduled will display patients that have been scheduled to receive a test, but have not yet been tested. This is indicated by the white ball under Visit Status. In progress will display patients who are still being tested and are not ready for interpretation. This is indicated by the yellow ball under Visit Status. Complete means that the patient has completed all of their testing and the test results are ready to be interpreted. This is indicated by the green ball with the check mark. All will display all patients, regardless of testing status. If you have Ascent 2.3, you should leave the visit status as all. If you have Ascent 2.4 or higher, mark the visit status as complete. Review status has several options to choose from. If you wish to display a list of patients that you need to interpret, select the Not Reviewed option. By selecting Not Reviewed, only patients that have not been interpreted and have their testing completed will be displayed. This will be indicated by the patients having their review status listed as Not Reviewed, and the visit status will have the green check mark. Again, in Ascent 2.4 mark the visit status as complete. Initial review can be selected if your workflow has physician residents or senior technicians review the tests before proceeding to final interpretation. Completed and locked, and completed, posted, and locked indicate that the reviewing physician has interpreted the test results and has locked the test from further change. Posted means that the results have been sent to the hospital's electronic medical records. Corrected and amended means that the results were previously sent to the EMR. However, after posting to the EMR, changes needed to be made, and either a corrected or amended report was sent back to the EMR. Generally, most facilities will have only one site, and this option does not need to be changed. However, if more than one diagnostic laboratory is connected to your Ascent database, you can specify which site the patients are associated with. For instance, if you are responsible for interpreting tests from a particular site only, then select that site from the drop-down menu. For care professional, if you are responsible for interpreting all tests, you should leave this entry as all. If you wish to review tests associated with a particular physician, such as yourself, then you should select that physician from the drop-down menu. If you selected a particular care professional, then you can select the type of staff member from the Type drop-down menu. For visit date range, select the time period for the test you wish to review. You can also select a specific date range. Note, the date range can only cover a 6-month window. Once you have made your changes, click on Apply to save the changes. In my example, I have selected Not Reviewed for the review status and a date range for the tests. By selecting Not Reviewed, only tests that have not been reviewed and are marked as completed will be displayed. Again, if you have Ascent 2.4 or higher, you must also mark the visit status as complete. Once the list of patients that match your filter criteria is displayed, you can now select which test you wish to review. You can individually select each test by clicking on the white square to the left of the patient's name. If you wish to mark all of the patients listed, click on the white square to the left of name in the column header. Once you have selected which patients to review, click on the icon in the upper left to take you to the review screen. The first patient on your list will be the first to be reviewed. At the top of the screen, general information about the patient is displayed, such as name, sex, date of birth, and ID. On the left-hand side of the screen, you have two options for the test results to be displayed. The default is a summary page. This will show you numerical data only. The individual variables, their order, and the columns can all be configured to your personal preference by going to the F5 settings screen. Once you make changes to the summary page, they will persist the next time you log in. The other option for test results is to view a PDF of the final report. The final report that is displayed is usually selected by the technician after they have completed testing. However, if you wish to look at a different report, you can click on the orange menu icon in the upper left and change the displayed report. On the right side of the screen, you have a section called Test Graphs. This will display graphs from the current test and has several options for you to choose. The first option is the type of graph to display. By default, the FVC graphs, flow volume loop, and volume time graphs will be displayed. To display another type of test, such as DLCO or plethysmography, click on the drop-down menu and select the test type. With the test type chosen, you can click on the Efforts button to display a list of options for the graphs. Selecting Pre and Post will display the best pre and the best post graphics only. Selecting All Selected will display all of the efforts that were chosen by the technician. This is helpful in looking at all of the patient's efforts and comparing multiple loops to each other. Selecting Challenge and Stage is desired if looking at a bronchial challenge test, such as a methacholine challenge test. By right-clicking on a graph, you can go to Graph Properties and change the properties of each graph. The lower right is the interpretation section. If the technician did a preliminary computerized interpretation, it will be displayed here. This interpretation can be edited, similar to a Word document. Words that are misspelled will be underlined with red. You can edit the interpretation or create a new interpretation by 4 different ways. The first way is to simply type in your interpretation. The second method is to use the computerized interpretation called auto interpretation if that software option has been installed. If the auto interpretation button is active, selecting it will create an interpretation based on the 2021 ATS interpretive strategies for PFTs. If you do not like the statements made in this default consult, they can be changed to represent how you express your interpretations. You can also have your technician create a custom consult from scratch based on your specific rules and statements. Another way to create an interpretation is to use the pre-configured statements by clicking on the Statements button. A list of default test types will be displayed. Click on the down arrow of the test type to display the entire list of statements for that test type. Double-clicking on any statement will place that statement wherever your mouse was in the interpretation section. Continue double-clicking on statements or clicking on New Test Types to complete your interpretation. The default statements can also be modified to match your interpretation style. To edit a statement, highlight the statement, then click on the pencil icon. The statement will be displayed on the right and can be edited and saved. The final way to perform an interpretation is to use the quick code function. When you display the list of statements, you will see quick codes to the left of each statement. If you know the codes or print them out, you can manually type in the quick code and press Enter to add the statement to the interpretation. In this example, we know that the quick code for the MVV is reduced is S5. By typing S5 into the quick code and pressing Enter, this statement will be added wherever your cursor is. Other options on this screen are shown via the icons at the top. These can be used at any time while in the review screen. The first icon is the report icon. This will duplicate showing a PDF of the selected report. The comments icon will display any comments the technician may have made during testing. This can be helpful in understanding how the test was performed or if there were any issues during testing. The question mark icon is for visit questions. If your facility has a pre-configured questionnaire that you ask of your patients, this can be displayed. The ATS scorecard icon will display the acceptability and repeatability of every effort performed by the patient according to the ATS guidelines. A green ball indicates that the effort was acceptable for that individual acceptability criteria according to ATS standards. A red ball indicates the effort was not acceptable for that individual acceptability criteria. The scorecard also displays the grade for each test and how that grade was derived. In the upper right, you can click on the drop-down arrow and display grading for DLCO and lung volume efforts. The auxiliary data icon will display a list of manually entered variables if your facility uses them. If the patient has more than one visit, a trending report can be displayed by clicking on the trend icon. This allows you to look at the data from previous visits and trend how the patient is doing from visit to visit. By clicking on the configure wheel in the upper right, you can configure what variables you want to display and how the graphic should look. If the patient had an exercise test with ECG performed, clicking on the ECG icon will display a PDF summary of the ECG data. The View Test Details icon will take you directly to the testing screen, where you can review every effort and graph the patient performed. Clicking on the test icons on the right will display the individual tests that were performed. To return to the review screen, click on the Return to Patient Visit icon in the lower right. Once the interpretation is complete, the review status for this test needs to be updated. Click on the drop-down menu for Review Status and select the status that reflects your review. If the interpretation was performed by a resident physician, the status may be changed to Initial Review. Generally, you will select Completed and Locked or Completed, Posted and Locked. Both of these will mark the status as completed and then lock the test from further changes. If your system is set up to send a report to the facility's electronic medical record, then select Completed, Posted and Locked to send the report to the hospital's EMR. Once you have changed the review status, select either Save and Next or Save and Exit, depending on how many patients you initially selected. Save and Next will display the test results for the next selected patient. If you have reviewed the last patient, Save and Exit will take you back to the home screen. If you have reviewed all patients who had the status of Not Reviewed, when you return to the home screen, there should be no patients listed. Thank you for watching this video. For more information on Ascent software, or if you have questions, please contact our technical support department at 1-800-333-4137 or email mgcdiagnostics at support@mgcdiagnostics.com.